When you pull on that jersey, you represent yourself and your teammates. And a name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back. Get that through your head.
And here we go.
And it is no good. He missed it. Are you kidding me? The season can't end like that.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Some goofball in a hat and a red shirt. Now he takes off the shirt. He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs to the 50. He runs to the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms, bare-chested. Somebody stop that man.
Welcome back to NETMA, we're otherwise known here on the program as Nobody Ever Tells Me Anything. Like my cat just decides to all of a sudden jump up randomly. Anywho, welcome. I'm your host, Tyler Falk. Sorry this is a bit late. I first off want to apologize to, well, everybody. Especially hosts Chad Rowland and Eddie Gage, who have a show starting in about, 15 minutes time. Some people call it The Streets Are Talking. I call it the Eddie and Chad love affair, but that's besides the point. But besides that, welcome to the program. I'm sorry this is a bit late. Did not intend for a certain celebration hosted by my workplace to go a little bit longer. It's like we're celebrating someone's birthday. Someone had their age go up by 1 and needed to partake in that. So, yeah, it was my birthday. Yeah, I'm old, guys. I feel old. Take a wild guess at how old I am. I'm pretty sure I'll be wrong. Anywho, other than that, it's good to be back here on the show. Fashionably late. Thank you, Frosty. That's exactly what I am. Good to see a lot more new faces earlier than usual. Then again, this is late, so is it later than usual, normal than usual? I don't even know. But good to see Frosty Dimes in here. John Fullerton's making an appearance. Bo Martin Jr.'s here. Torillo's here. Ron Haynes is here. Mike O'Neill's here. John, you're scary. You're scary accurate, but you're almost there, but that's not quite it. Anywho, back to NETMA. What a week 2! There was absolutely nothing that went wrong. We had a spectacular week of games. Oh, Martin Jr. Nice, but no. Anywho, what a spectacular week of games in the SFL. What a great week 2. Absolutely nothing went wrong. Absolutely nothing was out of the ordinary as far as normal football goes. We had DC and Atlanta was a spectacular showcase of defensive prowess from DC. It was back and forth a lot. We had our first 2 overtime games in this new era of the SFL and a lot of shockers. Carolina goes on the road and beats Baltimore in Baltimore. Los Angeles comes away against Denver in overtime. Indy survives against Mexico City. I mean, absolutely nothing went wrong this weekend, right? Right? Well, if you follow the trend that I seem to be posting for this video, a lot of asterisks next to a couple of things. You might even notice a few asterisks down below if you're paying attention enough. But something did go wrong. Something was not supposed to happen and did. And for the people involved, it's going to look very, very wrong in terms of how the outcome of a game and the outcome of a lot of things happen. For a team, for a couple of players, and the league as a whole. Yes, I'm going to talk about Motor City. Unfortunately for Noe Terrazas, and unfortunately from for Motor City, it wasn't a clean win. Huge credit to the guys in the booth. I think Torillo was on the call for that game. But it unfortunately was not a clean game. It was not a football game. It was a game. The system was gamed. The game was gamed. Motor City, whether by luck or by game plan, was caught in one play for the entirety of the game, which gave Noe Terrazas the infamy or the pedigree of being the single game reception leader in SFL history. It's unfortunate to look back on that Motor City game and come away with any positives for that, because Jacksonville played very well. Jacksonville should have won that game had Motor City been able to call a few different plays. Now, this goes back to it's a new game. Everyone is still learning what each game plan can do. Unfortunately for Motor City, it is not it's not once in a blue moon that this has happened. This has now happened, something like this has happened now 2 times for Motor City. What I mean by that is this particular game here in week 2 of season 21 saw over 70% passing in a game for a single team. 2 seasons ago, or a year ago at the Las Vegas convention, Motor City technically also ran a weird playbook where their book was interesting, to say the least. I don't have the exact statistic. I think it was close, if not over the limit between the ratio of passing and rushing. From what I'm being told, it was. Also, this book saw more than 70% passing versus rushing, which is illegal in SFL standards. Motor City now has a precedent of maybe it's on their own accord, maybe it's on the luck of the draw or how their book got game planned, but now it's happened twice. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. There is a big asterisk on Motor City at the moment. It's now 2 weeks in a row they've had very close books, very close game plans, which have resulted in a threshold like this being built, where passing is more prevalent than rushing in terms of SFL standard. Now, I'm of the mindset where it doesn't look great, but for Motor City's sake, something has to change for this to never happen again. For this to not look like you're doing it on purpose. And let me also be clear, Motor City was not the only team to have a funky playbook this season. Baltimore has now complained on 2 different occasions, the last 2 games, where they've had rushing games expose and completely change the way about it. And I agree with Damon. It's a weird scenario where the run-pass ratio cannot be set. But according to the SFL, you can't have that happen. They were still passing when in the lead. We go back to Baltimore 2 weeks in a row. We look at Carolina. They ran the ball a bunch of times against Baltimore and won. That's how Baltimore ended up with an 0-2 record. Baltimore is struggling. That defensive line looks like Swiss cheese at the moment. But the big question is, how do we contain, how do we control what teams are trying to build? Because like Damon mentioned, there is no ratio for playbooks anymore. You have to trust your game plan is set up in a way to do such a thing. And so while I will not say Motor City should be castrated or punished right now, but according to SFL standards, something has to be done in game planning and playbooks to make it in a way where this doesn't happen. Now, we have a lot to learn this season, even beyond our beta testing from this past more than a year of testing this new engine and this new game. But will we see more games like this where teams, one reason or the other, the AI sees a weakness and will exploit it more than we are able to control? So that is why I am not fully on the bandwagon of blaming Motor City or blaming, hell, I'm not even blaming Noe Terrazas or Brown in this case. But it looks wrong. It doesn't look like football. Love to hear your thoughts. There's a show questions page in the NETMA server Discord, link to which is down below in the description. Also coming up in about a minute time, Say It, or The Streets Are Talking are also going on, link to which will be in the chat here in just a few moments. If you want to stick around or watch both, NETMA continues here in just a minute. You're watching NETMA over here on YouTube.
Just tell me where you wanna go. Let me take you there. You see, I've been around the globe. I've seen a lot, but I wanna see what's above. I wanna see what's below. Just tell me where you wanna go. You can name the place, yeah, you can name the time. We can leave it all behind. No, stop what we want. Before we running out of time.
we are back here on NETMA segment number 2 of the program. I'm your host, Tyler Falk. Welcome back to the show. And last block, we talked about playbooks and what can be changed, how we can make it look like a playbook from the old and how crazy it's going to be. And there's a lot of conversation going on about that. How do we change that? How do we make it so we're able to do that? And yes, there might be an asterisk from me on there, but it brings a good question. Because it was the one thing that took away from a great weekend of football. It's the one outlier in so many great games. Now, how are they able to fix that with still trying to play within themselves, to play their style of football without being penalized? It's a big question. It's a big topic we can discuss all night long. And of course, we have the People's Presser coming up that we can show, and you guys can go ahead and discuss more about what that's coming up here in about 15 minutes. Looks like Chad Rowland is saying the Streets Are Talking will be delayed about 10 minutes, so at 9:10. If you'd like to watch a simulcast version, you can pull up Twitch on one page. You can keep yourself here on another page here on YouTube, and we'd be happy to watch. You can watch both at the same time. It's an extravaganza of content. You've got NETMA tonight, you've got The Streets Are Talking tonight, and of course you've got SFL Nights with AJ Stryker at 10 p.m. Eastern later tonight as well. So, a couple other things before we get going. A couple other things we should say before we get going. Jacob Clear has come up with a new podcast for the league, and not many people have watched it, I don't think. And it's a really unique take because, again, he's from Australia, the land down under, and they play a completely different rules of football, but his interest and investment in the game, and he's much more knowledgeable about the game. He's able to bring in a lot of different, his mentality from watching all different kinds of football. It's great. So trying, that's the league, social league content, but it just came out. It's been coming out, I think, every Tuesday or thereabouts. From Jacob Clear. Here we go. No, that's not it. There we go. Episode 2 of an Australian. There we go. Pulling up here. Australian Guide to the SFL. There you go. That's what you guys need to go check out. But that's coming out every so often. They came out yesterday. So go ahead and take a listen of it. And OJ Bruin, it's an opinion about it. Yes, it was unrealistic football. It was one play set over and over again. And can it be controlled? Sure. Can it not be controlled? We don't know. That's how this operates. There's a lot of things we don't know. A lot of things we don't know about this game. Now, I don't think it was I don't think it was deliberate. Again, I could be wrong. Maybe the engine got caught up in something, but only Motor City knows that. If it can be controlled, that's an issue. It's a major issue. And like I said, it sets a precedent. It sets a massive precedent because it's now the second time they've done something like that. Something needs to change. I feel bad for Jacksonville. I feel bad for Motor City. Because for everyone outside the coaching staff, because they have to deal with an asterisk over this game. With one of their players, Noe Terrazas, coming over from Sioux Falls, from a culture of who knows what, the ambiguity that the Sioux Falls culture has, compared to Motor City, who's trying their best. Two of my favorite people in the SFL, Colin and Rick Northrup. They shouldn't be dragged through the mud like this. They shouldn't have to deal with controversy like this. No team should. But if it's the actions of a few trying to manipulate this, it's a problem. It needs to be stopped. That's one of the last times we'll say it until one of you guys put the question out on it and we can keep talking. Baltimore, Carolina. Yes, the score is flop. It should be 33-10 Carolina victor over Baltimore. Thank you, Ron Haynes. So if you want to talk about it more, post a question about it in the show questions channel in the NETMA Discord server, link to which is down below in the description. But let's go over some things that we should buy and sell over this past weekend, shall we? What should we be talking about? And there was a great question back to Bragg asked in the show questions channel. It said, who's the best 2-0 team, 1-1 team, and 0-2 team after week 2? And who is lucky to be 2-0? Well, let's talk about that, shall we? Because we've got a couple of things to talk about some of these teams. We're talking about Motor City a whole bunch. Not going to go into Motor City, whether or not you should buy or sell them. That's your own opinion, because my opinion is I don't know whether or not you should buy or sell them, because things are wonky with them right now. Team that you should be buying, though, is Florida. I've been hot on them ever since the season started, but Florida is as a definite buy team for me. Florida should be a team that everyone should be looking out for, because even though Boletsky had himself a serviceable game, by servable, he only rushed for 93 yards in the win. Ron Cochran only threw for 184 yards. That defense held Queen City. And the special teams, you just needed them to hold, and you got the special teams to go ahead and come up with the first of its kind in the SFL. This is a bright spot for the SFL. 2 different returners return kickoffs for touchdowns. Caleb Giffus and Art Vandelay. That's a good leaderboard. That's a good stat to have. So Florida was able to do their thing and take control of business in that regard. A team you should sell. Hard sell. Atlanta. Hard sell in Atlanta. Maybe season 16 is catching up to them, but their offense looks, well, can you consider it an offense? Can you consider what they've done over the past couple of weeks in offense? It just hasn't looked that way. We know what BDG can do. We know what Falco can do. But right now, they need something badly to go their way, because it doesn't look like they're ready. It looks like they got the short end of the stick. They weren't prepared. And now, well, they're down and out. Atlanta could be, if you got proverbial stocks, fictional stocks in Atlanta, that's a sell. Hard sell. A team you should buy. Seattle. Now they're 1-1. But that Seattle team took Fort Worth to task Saturday. They ran with Fort Worth all the way through that entire game. And take a look at where Seattle has come from the past couple of seasons. Mediocrity. They look like a competent and strong football team. They look like their offense is good to go, but that defense needs an extra push every so often. But they look ready. They could take down Atlanta easily. In Atlanta, in the Hive. They are a strong, capable football team. By Seattle. Another team you should sell? This is a tough one. sell on Tulsa. Now, it's last week for the Desperados. Of course, did not go their way. They were unable to take down Arizona, but that offense looked sluggish. Now they have to go up against a very strong Central Division. JQ stayed clean. Don't get me wrong. But when you need a balanced offense and Douglas Brown can only muster up about 2.5 yards a carry at best, something is wrong. 19 carries, 50 yards, no touchdowns for Douglas Brown in the ballgame. Needs to change in week 3. It's also a team you should sell. A team you should buy into. San Diego. They look strong against Arizona. They came in and beat Alamo City. Very strong. I'm going to beat Alamo City. What am I talking about? Like I'm celebrated too much or something for a certain occasion. Anywho, they beat Sioux Falls handily. 33-10. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. San Diego looks tough. And if you can maintain a good controversy, if you can maintain a good composure, get your words right, Ty. Maintain a good composed offense and a defense that is able to pick off Tyree multiple times. Recipe for success, and that leads into the team you should sell, and that's Sioux Falls. Tyree is cooked. Tyree is cooked. It's not something we often say, but something has gone terribly wrong in the offseason for Sioux Falls. And it's showing. It is showing. 8 different times picked off for Tyree. The only quarterback to have double-digit interceptions as a total through 2 weeks in a new era where a quarterback can stay clean more effectively and more regularly than ever. Something in Sioux Falls smells like North Dakota. South Dakota smells like North Dakota, and North Dakota is doing well. That's who you should buy and sell. As we get to the end of this segment, of course, Streets Are Talking going on, link to which is in the chat. I'm also posting that once more again if you want to go check that out. Continuing coverage of NETMA will stay here on YouTube. We got 2 more segments to get through. Hopefully you'll stick around. If not, watch us side by side. And we'll see you after the break. This is NETMA live on YouTube. And welcome back to the program, otherwise known as NETMA. I am your host, Tyler Falk. Welcome back to the program. Segment number 3. No buy or sell on ACA, because you'll see why in a second. Because I still think highly on ACA, but I can only cover 5 teams. If you want me to cover more teams there, Bo Martin Jr., you've got the 5x5 coming up in segment number 5. And you're almost getting to Alamo City. Don't you worry there, bud. We'll get to Alamo City. I might be calling an Alamo City in Minnesota game this weekend. And I'm really looking forward to that. That game is going to be phenomenal when we get to that. Definitely sell. Bo! You being a traitor over there? Come on, man. You're putting everybody in the Matrix, including your own team? Ay. All right. Let's move on to the People's Presser. If you head down to the NETMA Discord server, link to which is down below in the description, you can pop into the Show Questions channel and ask me whatever question you'd like, and I'll go ahead and answer it live here on air. Because right now, I've got one question to answer. And that might be because people are bumping in between 2 different shows right now, and I humbly apologize to Chad and Eddie and to the rest of the community who has to split their focus here at this time to either watch both or watch one, so I deeply apologize for that. Here live, if you're watching it back, you don't care. You don't care whether or not you're having to split focus, because you can watch them on playback right here on YouTube. That's all you have to do. Anyhow, speaking of playback, I have done a very poor job of getting the segmented shows up. That's a project for this weekend after I calmed down from what has been a fantastic birthday, I should say. And yep, I'm doing the show on my birthday. I need a soundboard guy saying, "No one cares!" Right? No one cares that's my birthday. No one cares that my cameras all of a sudden decided to just blur everything out because no one needs to see the Minnesotan. But let's go ahead and get to the People's Presser. Why don't we, huh? It'll come back eventually. It always does. After week 2, Jail Compass says, what are the biggest surprise 2-0 teams and the biggest surprise 0-2 teams? Well, the unbeaten teams right now, for those that are still looking, is Arizona, Florida, Fort Worth, Alamo City, and a certain team from Detroit. A surprising 2-0 team out of the bunch would have to be the Toros. Now, I had Motor City taking the division. It is a massive surprise for Fort Worth. They were great last season. I did not expect them to come out and re-pick up where they left off. What they have. And it's a welcome surprise, in my opinion. They have done extremely well. They have limited points, kept teams at bay for the most part. Now, that being only 3 points versus Mexico City and 31 given up to Seattle, so maybe there's some give and take from that. At the same time, that offense has stayed clean for the most part. It's stayed efficient for the most part. They look like a very good Fort Worth Toro team. Now, if we take a look at the 0-2 teams, there's also 5 of them. Atlanta, Baltimore, Mexico City, and then Tulsa and Sioux Falls. Which one do I pick is the big question, because Tulsa is better than this. Sioux Falls should definitely be better than this. And then you've got Seattle, Baltimore, and Atlanta. Or not Seattle. Atlanta, Baltimore, Mexico City. What? What? And so when I'm looking at it, the surprise look for me is Baltimore. They have scored 57 points, which is near top of the mid pack in terms of offense, which is right about where they are about this time last season. But what scares me the most is that team has given up the second most points allowed in the entire league. They have given up 79 points in their first 2 games. The only other team that has given up more, I just saw it here. Where's the team with 90? There it is. Indianapolis has given up 93 points, ladies and gentlemen. Round of applause for Indianapolis. I wonder who that GM is. Ouch. But we're 1-1. We're 1-1. Doesn't help that we got niced by Minnesota. Thank you, Minnesota. Anywho, Baltimore the clear surprise to me at 0-2. It's a tough look for Baltimore at the moment. Yes, you can complain about running, but when you take a look at that defensive line, there's problems. There are problems with that defensive line. If they can adjust, they can get it. Devon Simeon says Houston only has played 1 game and almost has more points than Baltimore in 2 games. Frost Dimes, you gotta be more specific on that. What is my divisional record? Oh, I get it. Yeah. Good old tiebreak. Thank you, Minnesota. Thank you, Frosty. Anywho, what else you got for me tonight? What are the questions we've got roaming around here? And thank you, Guy. Going from allowing 69, nice, and to stopping Mexico City is a definite improvement for the Indianapolis Ramblers, and we'll definitely have to, and we'll need to jump on that. For those that are wondering, still. It's the Central Division record. What does Indianapolis have in the divisional record? And yeah, head-to-head. Minnesota has Indianapolis. But I think that's where Frosty was going. A couple other things. Thank you, Ron, for pitching that out. I can't go into the editor right now because it's not as simple. Just a look behind the scenes. The side ticker and the bottom ticker are controlled on 2 different on 2 different video screens. But what I mean by that is they're actually video files that go back and forth. And while producing a show, while talking about a show, and while hosting a show, I can't do that. I can do a lot. I've done pretty well. I think maybe I haven't in your eyes, but I can't, flip. I can't go in and flip that around during the show. I look like I did last week when I put in Mickey Malillo's photo, and I just look over like I'm stumbling over my words. Maybe you guys like that. Maybe you guys want more funny shots of me doing that. But we'll see. What other questions we got? Frostle, that's Frosty Dimes in the chat. It says 3 strikes and the commission controls your playbook for game 4. The reason why I say no, because that's a great idea. The reason why I say no is Cam has a lot more on his plate than any one of us realize. And he's just getting everything done. So I think that has great potential. But might be too much for the commission at the moment. Because the commission doesn't want to have that on him. The commission doesn't want to have that on him. He doesn't want the responsibility for an entire team which he has no affiliation with besides being the league commissioner. But there needs to be something done. There needs to be something done if it progresses further. Now, I don't do details. I work in a cloud of vagueness. Perfect. All right. See, 3 strikes and we have an even number of teams again. Ha 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 ha. There we go. It's a rough scenario for any team. any team to go something through like this. If it can be controlled, and I'm being told it can be controlled, reel it in. Reel it in. Make something happen to change it. All right. Let's see. I've got about 4 minutes, 20 seconds for more questions. I've got crickets. What else you guys got for me? Because I could go on and on about a couple other things. Could go over a few extra games here while we have time. A couple of games we haven't mentioned is Canton in overtime taking down Louisiana. A low-key great game that was. Both teams at 1-1. Canton taking down Louisiana. Louisiana stumbling in Ohio. Louisiana, meanwhile, did a great job to come back in that game. Just unfortunate for them to fall late. Another game. There's only 11 games now in the next couple of weeks. That's kind of strange. Then again, getting everybody through these blocks, through these bye weeks and everything, it's pretty tough. What else can I talk about here before we get to 5x5? Before we get to break number 3? What else you guys got for me? We talk about how, apart from a single team, next closest team in terms of being the highest scoring offense is Minnesota. Again, no one dealt helped by a certain 69 record. I walked myself into that one. Oh, there we go. Florida, 91. 91 points for Florida. There we go. That's what I'm looking forward to. Florida having 2 spectacular weeks of 40-plus points in both games. It was 49 and 52 as far as their 2 tallies go. 49 versus Baltimore and 42 versus Queen City. Let's talk about LA taking Denver to OT. Denver, a younger team, played very well in week 1. They were able to take down Tulsa, showing some hope for an organization that had struggled. And then they turned the corner. LA does a phenomenal job of coming back from only scoring minimal points. 3 points. The only other team to score 3 or less points was Mexico City. It's a phenomenal job. Sully and company have done a phenomenal job of working with LA to take Denver to task and come out with the victory in overtime in Denver. Underrated performance. Great game by all accounts. Overtime game that encapsulated most of what the SFL has become here in the last couple of weeks in this new era of the Simulation Football League. All right. 3rd and final break coming up here on the program. We come back. 5x5. Power rankings. Pick'ems. It all encapsulates the lightning round. We'll see you when we return. This is NETMA live on YouTube.
And I've been chillin', watching the ocean with you. Baby, up with a slow motion crew. And we up in our clouds when people change, but not us. And we just chillin', kicking it, kissed by the sun. Could be soaked to the skin in the mall soon. I know she got the good vibes when seasons change, but we're the same. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding.
Welcome back to NETMA 4th for Jaforza. Fourth and final segment here on the program, otherwise known as NETMA. I'm your host, Tyler Falk. And so we get to 5x5, which encapsulates power rankings. So let's do something different. Instead of posting it late for everyone to guess in which everybody's going, I'm going to talk about 5 different teams that I talked about in the Buy and Sell Project. I'll let you guys watch the power rankings unfold because there's a lot of turmoil in these power rankings. Yeah, Atlanta dropped 13 points or 13 places, and we already talked about them. But let's go ahead and talk about a couple different teams, right? Arizona continues the strong start after narrowly beating San Diego, who jumps up a few spots after their recent win. But let's talk a little bit more about Arizona. Whereas week 1 was nitty-gritty and they really had to scrape out that win, performance was really good for Arizona. We move on to Alamo City, who, again, barely lost, but are still tough. Or why do I keep saying they lost when they beat Vancouver? They took down Minnesota. They took down a tough legend team by about 7 points. So Alamo City making a great case for themselves. They continue to show that they still have their fight in them. Ace Fennec plays strong in the fourth quarter. He is a clutch quarterback. He has maintained his composure, his performance, and he's maintained persistence with his receivers. Alamo City, a good team to look at here in the power rankings. Baltimore, we talked about a little bit already. Charleston, they were on their bye week. Nothing talking about there. DC, look how strongly they played against Atlanta. A defensive masterclass for sure. Atlanta unable to do much. BDG held to scraps of rushing yardage. Bacon able to do Bacon things. He was sizzling. Fort Worth played very well. I see what I did already. DC played well. Not Bacon. What am I talking about? Bacon's Fort Worth. Kevin Say able to do some work, do some damage. DC played well. Defense was delightful. Atlanta need change. Let's talk about Houston for a little bit. Now, while they were on their bye week, an extra week to game plan for their upcoming game against Indianapolis. Now, the big question for Houston in this scenario is Indianapolis snuck away with one versus Mexico City. Can they respond with that? Demond Simeons asks, how is a 1-0 team sitting behind teams that are 1-1? Please make the math make sense. This math ain't mathing. Here's the thing. Power rankings are not math. This is where I think every team is, with their record taken into consideration. They have one game. In my personal opinion, power rankings are not standings. Standings be damned. It's a true power ranking, and you see it all the time in college football. The coaches poll. It's not a standing. The AP poll. It's not a standing. Yes, they'll come out with college football playoff rankings, which will rank the teams officially. But power rankings are my opinion. Everyone can have their opinion and their own power rankings. That's where mine come in. That's why it's called a power ranking. It's not standings. It's not official. Or one game was better than most of the one-on-one teams that you have above. That's your opinion. Beat Indianapolis. You've been game planning for 3 weeks. Beat Indianapolis. Then you'll move up. It's as simple as that. At the beginning of the season, I didn't have high hopes for Houston. If I quickly take a look at where you guys are as 5x5 ends and we transition here into the lightning round, I had Houston, with all due respect, at 4-8. You're 1-0. You've won one of the 4 games that I've expected you to win. Is that going to change? Can it change? Of course it is. Baltimore's 0-2 before the first 2 weeks. There goes my preseason predictions for Baltimore. Because I have Baltimore losing to Louisiana. They'll probably beat Louisiana. Maybe. Who knows? But these are my opinions. I think Houston are below Indy at the moment. Indy's 1-1. They played 2 games. I have had more time to watch Indy than I have had to watch Houston. I've had more time to watch Denver than I have had to watch Houston. I didn't think your draft was that strong, and that's where you're there, why you are there at number 20, the power ranking. There's a lot of explanation for a lot of these teams. A lot of good hope for Charleston at the moment. Baltimore's still in the top 12 because Baltimore can be Baltimore and change things. As long as you can defend your own opinion, keep your opinion. So that's solid sound advice, maybe. Weak advice in other cases, but you've got to prove. You have to prove. Beat Indy. All right. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and get to some pick'ems, shall we? Let's go ahead and pick where everybody else is going to go in week number 3. Not week 2, but week number 3. 11 more games this weekend for us to discuss and to talk more about, but let's go ahead and talk about it. Florida and Atlanta. Next. Until Atlanta's offense changes around, Atlanta ain't winning football games. Queen City, Carolina. Carolina has a lot of things riding for them because they took down Baltimore. Queen City played tough against Florida in a lot of regards. At the same time, Carolina looks like a much stronger team coming this week than they did after week 1. That's for sure. Beating Indy won't be hard, my friend. Okay. Sure, pal. Beat Indy. And I try to keep as much. If he doesn't have motivation now, he certainly has it. Of course he does. And again, I am just as hard on my own team than I'm everybody else. I'm looking for a good game. Let's go ahead and pick that game right now, shall we? Indy and Houston. Houston at home. Home teams have been getting a lot of good rap. Indy's been Indy has been hit or miss. Coming into week 3, though I have them below in the power rankings after just 1 game played, I'm giving it to Houston. I am giving it to Damon, and I'm giving it to Houston. You guys had an extra week to prepare for this game, where you haven't had to worry about a game plan for everybody else. In this new era, it makes you guys more lethal. It makes teams coming off bye weeks that much more lethal. Because you're able to change so much more, even in bye weeks in the previous. That's where I stand. Portland, Mexico City. Has anyone looked at what Mexico City's done? Yes, they played tough against Indy. I'm going Portland on this one, though. Portland's had an extra week to prepare for Motor City. I've got Portland on the road. Canton, Motor City. I'm going Canton in this one. I think Motor City tries to do too much to get back to within regulation. I think Canton takes advantage of that and wins. Denver, Sioux Falls, Tyree will throw 5 more interceptions, and Denver will walk away with this one handsomely. Minnesota, San Diego, this one's tough. This one's tough because San Diego is a tough cookie. Minnesota's a tough cookie. It's going to be a great game, regardless of what happens. San Diego's has a pretty decent defense, and I think they try and encompass what Alamo City did and come away with a victory on the road. Jacksonville, Charleston. Jacksonville needs some revenge, man. Jacksonville come away with the win against Charleston. I'm high on Charleston, but Jacksonville is looking to look for revenge at home. I think they get it. Louisiana, Baltimore. Baltimore look like they're struggling. I think Baltimore goes 3-0. Tommy, Utah and company will take this football game. Arizona, Seattle. Shocker. Shocking upset win. Seattle will beat Arizona because that defense in the Nemisphere is tough. They are tough against Fort Worth. And if Arizona, and knowing Eddie Gage, knowing Arizona, they will take Seattle with a... They're coming into Seattle with a fierce game plan, but I think they're gonna struggle a little bit. Golden Dogboat comes to Motor City this Saturday, Tyler. No, not happening. Not happening. Las Vegas and Vancouver. Vancouver and both Vegas have both had a week to prepare for the Monday night Cam and Paulie spectacular. I think Vancouver take this one. It was tough against Alamo City. If they struggle on the offense like they did versus Alamo City in week 1, Vegas could easily take this. But Vancouver, I think Vancouver will bounce back handsomely and come out the win. All right, final bits and pieces of the show or the program before we wrap up. Go ahead and get rid of that here for now. So again, for those of you that have stayed with me or have watched both this program and The Streets Are Talking with Eddie Gage and Chad Rowland, I appreciate you sticking with me. If you're watching this back on replay, you don't care. You don't care. Hope you enjoyed the program. If you want more information about the SFL or want to watch more YouTube videos, the YouTube link and the website link are down below in the description, along with a link to the NETMA Discord server where you can jump in and talk more about NETMA, all things NETMA, or whatever you want to talk about in there. Love to have you in there. Let's see. There's apparently a statement released on the Motor City issue. Well, we got a minute 27 to break it down. They completed an investigation. The timer might run out, folks, but we're going to continue. You're going to see some weird things coming on, but that clock might go away because let's dive into this. Here we go. The simulation. I'm going to read straight from the website. The Simulation Football League has concluded its investigation into the gameplay from last week's Motor City Jacksonville matchup that resulted in a 56-42 finish that included the same plays being run repeatedly without mercy throughout the contest. The investigation concluded that Motor City head coach Drew really manipulated the game in order to force up a specific play to be called often. The result was it being called over 40 times, an egregious number that falls beyond the scope of pro football replication, the league's highest principle. This was done by adding only one play in one formation in a package the playbook previously did not possess. This was done in 2 instances and was also done in week 1. Really was forthcoming, worked with the league, and took accountability for his actions. In an attempt to take advantage of an opponent's weakness, Mr. Reilly did not use simulation principles to guide his team to victory. Rather, he used a very basic and elementary way to manipulate the AI that is designed in its purest form to replicate football, said Commissioner Cameron Irvine. My job is to protect the principles by which we play and come together as a community. And that, first and foremost, is putting the art of professional football in a game. Those who don't follow those priorities consistently have no place amongst our coaching ranks. The league does not charge coaches to coach as they help make our product great in the field. When they don't, we are obligated to enforce our principles to ensure all other teams who are playing by the rules reap the benefits for doing so. Okay. Okay, there's a little bit of... Here's the kicker. Here is the kicker. In lieu of coach dismissal, Drew Riley is no longer a coach in Motor City. Motor City has elected to take a $100 fine. Not SFL cap money, but a fine. A USD monetary fine has been issued in the SFL. Both were presented as options, but Motor City... No. Okay. They did not dismiss Coach Riley. Okay, I read that wrong. Drew Riley is still a coach. Motor City took a $100 fine, as both were presented as options. Motor City complied with the league on a resolution. All teams are responsible for the actions, players, staff, yada, yada, yada. Violation. Let's see. There's a lot more other little things here. Here's also, we'll get into the other stuff here in a second, but I guess we're going into NETMA overtime. This was unprepared, unplanned, but as you can see, what happens when you go over an hour, you get stuff like this. My timer goes out, my side tracker goes out, but you all know what we're here, right? It's like NETMA After Dark or something. That's what we'll call it. So coaches, so Drew Riley's still a coach. They took a $100 fine. Now that's a different precedent for coaching in the SFL. And now we know exactly what Drew Riley and Motor City were doing to take control of the game. And I am inclined to agree with a lot of the community at the moment. $100 not severe enough. Not doing both, a coach firing and a fine, not severe enough. Motor City get off leniently, in my regard. Though I don't make those decisions. That's tough. These are not owner-enforced policies. These are league-enforced policy. It was gamed. The game was literally gamed. I think the general reaction in chat, already in League Alerts, speaks for itself. It's Amazon Eddie Shades right now. That's where I'll leave it tonight then. Because if I'm going to go over and watch that, you guys can go over and watch that. That's going to do it for NETMA. What a way to end the show. What a way to end the show. Go watch The Streets Are Talking. Link is in the YouTube chat here. For those still watching, go over and watch Cam and Eddie. If you heard my opinion, I know your opinion or a lot of your opinions. Let's hear what Cam and the rest of the SFL have to say. It's a very poignant issue here at the moment. This has been NETMA with your host, Tyler Falk. We hope to see you next time, next week. Goodbye.